All right, I wanted to do a quick research review with this article. So this was published towards the end of last year, and the title of this study was Acute Creatine Supplementation Enhances Technical Performance in Adolescent Basketball Players Under Cognitive Motor Dual Task Conditions. So this is a unique creatine supplementation study because we have a very kind of practical view of how creatine supplementation could directly impact different aspects of sports performance. In this case, it was with basketball. So let's get into kind of what they did with this study. So this was a crossover study design with kind of a within subjects control. So they randomized 40 athletes, 40 basketball players, and then they kind of split them in half, and half the group did creatine first, the other half did their placebo supplementation protocol, underwent the series of basketball specific tests. Then there was a washout period of about 4 weeks, and then they kind of flipped conditions. And so all participants ended up completing both conditions, hence kind of the within crossover study design that we would use to describe this type of study. For the testing protocol, they used a very unique series of basketball-specific tasks. So they did dribbling, they did passing, and they did different shooting drills. As a basketball coach, I really appreciate the detail that they used to outline the different specific tasks that were completed, including specific measurements and diagrams to go along with it. So that's pretty helpful in terms of understanding what they did from a testing protocol. If we jump up to the supplementation protocol, let's see, where did they kind of go over that? So for this one, they used a creatine supplementation protocol that would be common to a loading dose. So they used 0.3 grams of creatine per kilogram of body weight. So that way it's normalized for each participant's body size. And then they had them supplement like that for 5 days. They split the doses up across 4 different dosing time points throughout the day. And so they followed that loading dose for 5 days. And then on the 6th day, they actually used a smaller dose, just 0.1 gram of creatine monohydrate per kilogram of body weight. And they did that about 30 minutes before the actual tasks or activities that they were engaged in. And so then when we jump down to the results and kind of see what they found, the other, I guess, unique aspect of this testing protocol that I didn't mention is they had participants complete just a single task, so just going through those different basketball drills in isolation. And then they also had a different condition in which they called it cognitive motor dual task, where they actually asked the athletes to complete kind of basic math type problems or equations or verbally, I should say, while they were completing the task. So they're providing a little bit of a mental challenge on top of the basketball specific drills. And so across these different conditions then, and under the different situations where they did single task, this ST versus the cognitive motor dual task, we see creatine supplementation, even just as short of a week's worth of that loading protocol, actually resulted in improvements in a variety of these different basketball specific drills or tasks. And so here we see different figures that are looking at the kind of burden of doing the mental kind of cognitive motor task on top of the shooting specific tasks. A little bit of a grammatical error here. But we see creatine eliciting favorable improvements in some of these different aspects of, again, basketball-specific performance. Also helped contribute to a lower internal load across those different conditions, meaning the athletes felt they weren't as working hard when we looked at ratings of perceived exertion. And that was also confirmed by a physiological marker of heart rate, indicating that their heart rate wasn't quite as high following that creatine supplementation protocol. Let's see, I want to scroll back up to the discussion here. So some of them were task specific. So the study or the authors here reported that within the study, they found that the single task condition, creatine monohydrate, only improved the dribbling and shooting performance with no real significant effects on the passing. But when we look at that cognitive motor dual task condition, creatine significantly enhanced performance at all the tasks, so dribbling, passing, and shooting. So it seems like the addition of creatine here really helps from a kind of brain health and cognitive processing standpoint to help them better execute basketball-specific drills, and then also lessening the cognitive load placed on these athletes, seemingly helping them just process things more quickly, and then also translate to better performance on the court, which could certainly help if we look at what happens during a basketball game, there's a lot of mental stimuli, things that you need to focus on, be able to process information quickly, react quickly, and then also execute the task on the court. So again, unique study here with creatine supplementation, looking at how it can directly impact aspects of basketball performance. They also didn't report any side effects, which I think is worth noting here since we were looking at adolescent basketball players. So again, a little bit more evidence that it's probably safe and well tolerated in a younger athlete population here. So check this study out if you want to read it in more detail. You can scroll back up to the start of the video where you can kind of see the study title and the authors and the name of it if you want to pull up that full text. It is open access, so you should be able to access it for free.